Welcome to Immigration Insider with your host, attorney John Nicelli. This podcast is an educational forum on how to deal with complex aspects of immigration and pitfalls to avoid. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, johnnicelli.com. Now here's the host of Immigration Insider, attorney John Nicelli.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Nicelli. I'm an immigration lawyer in New York City, and I've been practicing exclusively in the field of immigration law for approximately 43 years. Today, we're going to speak about an extraordinary ability petition. Now, there's two different types of extraordinary ability petitions. One is for permanent residence, and one is for a working visa. So I'm basically going to go over the O1 requirements, which is a working visa part. Because basically the requirements are the same, except one is permanent and one is for a limited period of time. So in order to demonstrate extraordinary ability, one must demonstrate extraordinary ability in the science, the arts, business, education, or athletics, or general athletics. So if you file for what they call an O1 visa, you're allowed to, once the visa is issued, you can stay in the United States, enter the United States rather, 10 days before the visa takes effect, and you can stay here 10 days after the visa expires. Generally, for an O1 visa, the period of stay is approximately 3 years. It could basically be renewed indefinitely, generally in increments of 1 year. If you are fired from your employment for some reason, your employer is required to pay the reasonable cost of your transportation back to your home country. Now, I'm going to go over the criteria for that the Immigration Service is looking for in order to support a petition and have a petition approved. So, immigration lists a number of things on their website, but I'm going to explain each of those criteria. So for one of the first criteria is that you first of all, if you want to do it without any criteria, basically one criteria, I should say, you would have to have won or been recognized by receiving an award, which is of really major international significance. For example, the Nobel Prize. I don't think there's too many things that can compare to the Nobel Prize. But if you are a Nobel Prize winner, you can easily qualify for an extraordinary ability petition. If not, then you would need to provide documentation that I'm going to speak about. So documentation involves, first of all, the receipt of a nationally or internationally recognized prize or awards for excellence in the field of endeavor. So what that means is that whatever your field of expertise is, that you've actually won national awards in your country, or you may have won international awards where the prize that you received was actually recognized in the world. So it could be many, many things. I'm not going to go into all of them, but as long as you know it's an internationally recognized award, which is also very difficult to obtain. So second thing would be membership in a particular professional organization. So if you're a member of a particular professional organization, what immigration looks into is that what's the criteria for allowing you to join that organization? Now, it can't be that anyone can apply and just become a member. It has to be something that really requires expertise. There are certain organizations, they may require licensing, they may require licensing and experience in the field for a number of years. They may also require different things like publications. Maybe you wrote a book, or you have a newspaper publications, or recognition somewhere in the world, either through magazines, through newspaper articles, perhaps on the internet now, and different things like that. So membership is generally has to be recognized either nationally or internationally. Another example would be one of the criteria they use is published material in a professional or major trade journal. So what have you done actually regarding whatever work you do that's been recognized either nationally or internationally? If you have a publication, for example, you may have been published a book. Well, what was the distribution of that book? How many people read it? What countries did it sell in? Was it limited to the town or city you live in? So these are things that immigration will look at and things that you'd have to provide to them because without just showing that, well, I published this book and with really nothing else about it, immigration probably is not going to give too much weight to that because they want to show that that publication was actually recognized and published widely, as I said, either domestically or internationally. They also ask for evidence of your participation as a panel or as individually as a judge on the work of others. So let's say you're an outstanding scientist and you've done scientific research on, it could be cancer research, it could be nuclear research, it could be basically any kind of research. But they want to show that you have done participate as a judge, or you've been involved in examining other people's work and other people's publications and whatever their accomplishments have been. So I've done people that, for example, have been recognized by the National Institute of Health in the United States. And first of all, to work for the National Institute of Health would be very, very difficult because you have to have really extraordinary criteria to even join the team there. But if you have such recognition from them and you can say, well, I've worked for the National Institute of Health for the last 5 years doing a specific type of research, that would be a major criteria in your favor that you'd be able to use to qualify for an extraordinary ability petition. The other thing is, what kind of work have you done? Have you done any original scientific or scholarly or business-related work? Perhaps, for example, let's say Jeff Bezos, who started Amazon, wanted to get an extraordinary ability petition. Well, his accomplishments have been phenomenal, from basically starting from nothing to have a multi-billion dollar business throughout the world. That would be a major accomplishment. It could be maybe you made a discovery. You have a patent on this particular item. Maybe you enhanced the cell phone, for example, or you developed something that we never used in the past. 3D printers, for example. Maybe you were involved in the development of a 3D printer. Things like that would be helpful. So if you use that as an example, so you were on the scientific team that developed the 3D printer, you got a patent on your research and your findings, and then which led now to manufacturing. So then you license it, and if you license it, you found a manufacturer to produce it. So if you did something like that, and you sold, like, to say Dell or HP or Xerox or IBM, that would be certainly the type of criteria that they would be looking at. Evidence of beneficiaries' authorship or scholarly articles in the field in professional journals or other major media. So again, that would be, what have you published? Where has it been published? What recognitions it's received anywhere in the world? Have you ever received any awards for your publications? Have you sold your publication for an astronomical amount, to a country or to an entity that perhaps paid millions of dollars for whatever it may be? Those are things that they're looking for. Evidence that the beneficiary has been employed in a critical or essential capacity for an organization or establishment that has a distinguished reputation. So what has your position been? Okay. They want to know, what did you do? What's your history of work? What's your educational history? And where does your education lead you to getting a position, to whatever that position may be? And again, it has to be a well-recognized position. And one of the things that they would consider for the recognition of the petition is what education did it require to get the position, and what salary did you receive in that position. So, for example, let's say you were hired as the manager of some multinational company, and that company has paid you a salary of in excess of $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000. Well, that would be significant. But let's say you were a manager of a smaller company and your salary was $90,000 to $100,000. That would not be considered that significant and probably not be one of the criteria that immigration would accept to give you your temporary or permanent residence. And as I said, whether it's temporary residence or permanent residence, the criteria are pretty much the same. Now, when you do these O1 visas, one of the things that they want is a contract between the employer and the beneficiary, who is the person who's applying for the job. So you want to recognize that, you know, your abilities are recognized and you're going to be able to work in the United States. And that would be for an O1 visa. On extraordinary ability petitions where you're seeking permanent residence, they'll want to know, how is your employment going to benefit the United States, which is a little bit different. So it's not just working for an employer, but you know how your employment is going to enhance the economy and things like that. So usually with an O1 visa, one of the things that they always want is a written consultation, generally from a labor union or professional organization that has authority in your field and expertise in your field, and they would be able to give an expert opinion as to your abilities. So when you do that, they usually want to see a copy of the petition that you're going to send to immigration, and they want to know everything that goes with it. So all the awards you've won, anything you've been participated in, anything you've published, and of course your salary during the last 5 or 10 years or whatever it is. Now, and that's very, very important. Compensation is extremely important. I've done a number of these petitions over the years, and I'll give you 2 examples which are very, very different in the type of cases that they were. So I had this man from Europe who was in his mid-20s, and he came to me and he said that his expertise was playing handball. Now, my first reaction was, well, playing handball, that doesn't sound like it's really too exciting to be someone who would be considered of extraordinary ability. Well, when I explained what I needed, he was able to produce just about everything that we wanted. And he became, we were able to get him a visa to actually first to work, and then eventually we filed for permanent residence for him, and he was able to get recognized as an extraordinary ability with having extraordinary ability in the field of playing handball. And the reason why we did it is because not only he trained in handball like when he was in high school or throughout college, he was in tournaments basically all over Europe and throughout the world. He won best player in I don't know how many tournaments. There was many, many, many things that he did. And as a result, immigration recognized it, and he became a permanent resident, and now he's a U.S. citizen. I had another person that I did where he was a psychiatrist. Now, psychiatrist, again, that is a field of expertise. Obviously, you have to be a medical doctor and have a lot of education, but that alone didn't do it. But in this particular field case, he worked for many years, and he published 12 books on psychiatry. He actually wrote 12 books in psychiatry. And those books were published throughout the country he lived in. They were published in the United States. Then he sold them on different places around the world. Amazon wasn't available at that time, so it was before Amazon's time. but he was quite reputable, and his book sold everywhere, and immigration accepted him as well as Extraordinary Ability Petition. They approved the petition as an extraordinary ability alien. So basically, he was recognized as well. There have been many others that we've done over the years, with whether it be engineers or different scientists, like I mentioned earlier with the National Institute of Health. I had someone that worked there for a long time, and that person she was a medical doctor, and she was doing scientific research at the National Institute of Health. And between her education and her research and all her work experience and the salary she was paid, she was granted Extraordinary Ability Petition as well. It all depends on, what qualifications that people have, whether it be through education, through publications, through salaries. You have to have at least 3 of the 10 criteria that immigration will accept generally. And if the 3 are strong enough, it's usually okay. What I usually do is I never submit only 3 criteria. I always submit a minimum of 4 or 5 or 6, because you never know sometimes how immigration is going to review this or anticipate it, or what they would consider. It all depends. And with immigration, it all depends on what examiner you get. Some examiners may approve a case, and the examiner sitting at the next desk may disapprove a case based on the same exact evidence. So you always have to be extra careful about submitting everything that you possibly have regarding that applicant, however significant or insignificant it may seem. Always submit it and overwhelm them with every document you have, so that when they do read it, they'll say, well, it appears that this person is really qualified and is deserving of the visa, whether it be an O1 or Extraordinary Ability Petition on a permanent basis. So that's all for today. And if you have any questions, you can always call my office, which is at 212-227-8020. You can always send us an email, john@johnnicelli.com. We would be happy to answer questions or set up a consultation for you to resolve any problems. And if you think you may qualify, come in for a consultation, and we'll determine if you qualify or not. Hopefully you will, and hopefully we'll be successful. So I wish everyone luck, and thank you very, very much.
You've been tuning into Immigration Insider with your host, attorney John Nicelli. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, johnnicelli.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.